When we're trying to learn how to scream on our own, there's a lot of uncertainty around it sometimes, and there can be a lot of unknowns too. Sometimes you have a lot of questions that it feels like there isn't anybody to ask, and even if you do, the answers can be kind of complicated and very different depending on who you are. That's why I'm taking all of my experience here and everything that I know and laying it all out for you here to answer those questions. And that's why this is 5 things that I think are very important for you to know as a beginner vocalist learning how to scream. Number 1, growing pains. I know we've all had that moment when we're learning how to scream, where we hit something a little too hard, we're doing our thing, and suddenly you feel a little bit of pain, maybe a little bit of sharpness, kind of a burning sensation, and we think, oh, that's it, I'm done for, I did something wrong, I hurt myself. And it's really easy to panic in those moments. As long as you're being mindful and you know what different feelings are and how to avoid them and navigate them, then you can rest easy and practice comfortably too. There are going to be growing pains in this beginning stage of being someone using these more extreme styles of vocals and learning how to scream. And that's okay. Giving yourself that space to know that you're not going to hit it exactly right or super well every time is important. Screaming is a very physical task. And because of that, it takes being able to go through those motions and sometimes slipping and falling before your body starts to understand the rhythm of what it is you want. Playing any kind of sport, training any kind of athletics, learning how to scream, sing, and anything like that is all very similar in the fact that sometimes we need to be able to not just necessarily power through things hurting, but be able to stop in the moment, evaluate what happened, think about maybe what went wrong. Did you go into it a little too intensely? Did you push too hard? Do we feel really tense? Give yourself a moment, get back on the horse, and try again. Those little moments are going to happen, especially in the beginning, like I said, as your voice and body are figuring this out, but keep consistent and give it time, and this is how you can grow past and beyond those growing pains. Number 2, what screaming should feel like. As a vocal coach for screaming, I get asked this question all the time. What should screaming feel like? Not even just from beginners, but I get asked that question from plenty of different people that have been doing this for years, on tour and in the studio too. And the answer is that it really shouldn't feel like that much. When you're first starting out, when you are either getting the false chords initiated for the first time, or starting to peel back those layers, to allow a fry scream to really flourish through your voice, those sensations are going to be very bizarre at first because your body and your throat and your vocal cords don't really have a frame of reference for what those have felt like before now if you're just starting out. So it's going to be a little distracting at first, kind of feel like it's all over. And then as you practice over the course of days and weeks and do things more minimally and try to make things more efficient through the ways that I always recommend practicing here, you'll notice that as long as you're balancing your way through, the overall sensation that screaming has will start to get smaller and smaller and more minimal and more exact until it almost focuses on a point. When I'm doing any kind of scream, whether it be a false chord or a fry scream, regardless of how intense it sounds, it feels very minimal because I'm not overworking anything physically in order to get it done, and I've taken the time to really come to understand the screaming and practiced and done this enough on my own that my body knows how to do the bare minimum to get these sounds out and create them in the first place. If you're feeling itchiness and scratchiness, a little bit of rubbing, tenderness, or like a lot of excessive heat or anything like that, a decent chunk into being a beginner, like if it's been a few months and that's something you're still feeling, there may be an imbalance somewhere that you want to work through. Because like I said with growing pains, that will happen a bit in the beginning. But as you work beyond this, you definitely want to make it your goal to have those feelings subside and let the overall feeling of screaming minimize. One way of thinking about it and feeling this is like when you're talking about something you're really excited about. You feel a little more vibration in your throat, but not that much more than when you're just talking normally. There isn't a lot of force being used, but you can tell there's a little more activity and a little more excitement. I would kind of describe it as like that sense of excitement in the throat. Not like anything rubbing or really getting pushed together particularly hard, just kind of elevated from however we're speaking. When I'm going into different kinds of screams, like a false chord scream, hey, that to me feels the same, hey, as making that same kind of big excited statement. Hey, hey, which is why they behave similarly. With a fry scream, same kind of thing, hey, hey, it's based off of whatever I'm kind of inspired by and whatever kind of energy I'm using. So as long as I'm understanding that feeling and I'm keeping that minimalist idea in mind, hey, I feel that elevation, yay, and I can carry that through into the scream. Number 3, learning your muscle memory. All of us are different. We have different voices, we have different bodies, we have different tendencies. And when we start to learn how to scream, a lot of those tendencies start to come up, and they have a big impact on the way that not only we're learning, but the way that the screams and all the vocals we're doing are actually happening. Being aware of those things and starting to create more of a connection with not just what your voice is doing, but what your body is doing when you're trying to scream is going to be really important. To all of my beginners out there, I highly recommend practicing in front of a mirror and doing that a lot. Sometimes with different tensions, say in the throat, in the face, in the jaw, in the tongue, it's hard to notice those things at the same time as vocalizing and when you're working on and thinking about screaming. So if we're not noticing those things, it's really easy for them to get in the way of what we're trying to do. Practicing in a mirror can help you to notice these kinds of physical things that are happening when you're trying to scream, like if you notice your larynx moving around all over the place when you're trying to scream, a lot of movement up or down. If you're noticing a lot of veins popping out of the neck, shoulders creeping up a lot, and if you're noticing your jaw getting tighter and tighter, face getting tighter, tongue pulling really far back and getting really kind of tight and bald in the back of the throat, those are things that are showing us that the body's doing a little too much work, and there's different things that are tensing too much to try to get the job done. But it goes beyond the vocal too. It goes beyond the throat. Practicing in that mirror can show us what our arms and legs are doing, what our chest is doing, what our back is doing. Are we kind of jumping up and down a little too much? Are we swaying back and forth a lot? Do we seem like we can't settle? Do we feel like we're a little more to one side than the other? Trying to even ourselves out and becoming more aware of these things so that we can really relax our way through can make all the difference in the world to allowing these screams out in a nice and calm manner, which is going to help us the most when we're starting to learn this stuff in the first place. Because if the body and the voice and everything are really tight and the muscle memory is kind of taking over, it makes it a lot harder for these to come out. As you continue your way through as a vocalist, you're going to start to develop a new set of muscle memory for yourself based on everything we're talking about here and all of my other instructional videos here on our YouTube channel and our EVI Now program too. So with that in mind, come to know those things too. Keep practicing in a mirror, think about that mind-to-body connection, and make note of the way that you respond during different kinds of vocal moments, especially as you start to feel yourself improving, because then you'll remember exactly how to get to where you want to be anytime you want or need to. Number 4, don't get stuck comparing. In the beginning, when we're just starting out and learning how to scream, sometimes it's really easy to get frustrated with ourselves that we aren't further along than we are. And that's where comparison is really the enemy here. When we're listening to other bands, looking at the people that we look up to, and then even looking at people around us and other people that we may know that are learning how to scream, or when you're looking online at others learning, sometimes it seems and may feel like others are advancing faster than you are, or other people are achieving things that you're not. And that can get tough sometimes, and that can get frustrating. And that's where it's easy to let that kind of take over and make us skip over steps and try to rush our way through. This is where it's really important to not necessarily compare ourselves to others, because every single person's vocal journey is different, especially with screaming, and it's incredibly unique to the individual. So whenever you're working on yourself, working on your screams, and how to do this regularly and safely and responsibly to yourself, be thinking to yourself and just evaluating, what do different things sound like? What do they feel like when you're looking in that mirror, like I keep recommending? What does it look like when I'm doing these different things? And as you start to kind of build these lists for yourself of what combinations create what end results, as you go beyond just learning how to get a scream out, but how to do things with that, that's where you can start to learn flexibility, be able to up the intensity, up your endurance, and suddenly you might look around, you might look up, and you'll notice that it doesn't seem like you're that far behind anymore. Now you can kind of explore new territory, go down different avenues with this, and start to really explore your voice once you take the time to really only compare to yourself. That's one of the most important things that I learned on my own, is as soon as I started to think about my own voice and what do I sound like and how do I explore more of what I have available to me rather than looking around and kind of thinking the grass is greener on the other side, things got a lot easier for me, and they got a lot easier for the many, countless others that I've taught this to as well. So remember, comparison can definitely be the enemy, and give yourself the space and time you need to get to where you want to be. And that brings me to my last point. Number 5, how long it's supposed to take to learn how to scream. If you've been asking yourself how long learning how to scream is supposed to take, the answer kinda doesn't exist. Everyone is so different, and like I said, all of our vocal journeys are different too. It depends on the amount of time you're putting in, it depends on what you want to be learning, what style of vocal you're using, and how your body is adapting to this stuff. Like I was saying earlier, all of our muscle memory is different too. And sometimes, depending on who you are, your body may be a little more resistant to one type of scream or any type of scream. And it might take a little extra convincing to show your body that these things are okay and that you can work through them and allow them to be incorporated into what you do safely and responsibly. There's no set amount of time this is supposed to take to learn, and sometimes that can get frustrating, especially in the beginning when we're just starting out learning how to scream. The steps we're following, the things we're working on, the routines that we're going through can start to feel a little overly repetitive, and that's where it's really easy to want to push ourselves to the next level a little before we're ready. Being patient and taking your time to go through all the kinds of things I'm talking about here, letting yourself evaluate these things, and understanding that it's okay to not necessarily know all of the answers right away is really important. Something that I wish someone had said to me when I was just starting out learning how to scream is that it's okay that I don't already know how to scream. There's a lot of information out there now about screaming. There's so much of this all over the place and so many people every day looking to and wanting to learn, which is exciting. But with that being said, there's sometimes this inner expectation we put on ourselves when we start to scream and start to learn that if we don't get it right away, that for some reason that's our fault. And that's something to get kind of angry about, kind of frustrated about, and take that out on ourselves. Take your time with it. Everyone's vocal experience learning how to scream is different, and that's why I want to provide information like this to all of you out there just starting out, and all of you that have been doing this for a while too. Every single person and voice are entirely unique, and that's especially true with screaming. And that's why, whether it be in one-on-one lessons, here on YouTube, or in our online program EVI Now, this is always something I'm thinking about and keeping in mind. And I really structure all of my lessons and all of my material here that you're seeing now on this principle. So screaming doesn't have to feel like an unattainable thing where the person next to you is able to get it faster, and if you don't get it right away, that means there's something wrong and you can't do it. It just means trying another idea, taking another approach, and shifting that point of view just a little bit to start to see a clearer picture of what's ahead and where to go when it comes to navigating your way through learning how to scream. There's no one way to learn how to scream, and no such thing as only one correct way to scream. So try everything out there and use all the resources that we have available for you all to really learn and do your best to navigate through this stuff. That being said, there are still unknowns that can surround all of this when you're just starting out, so if you still have questions out there, leave a comment here below. I'm always reading through these and scanning through to take in account everything that you're all saying and everything you're all asking to make the learning and teaching experience of screaming that much better. As always, I'm David Benitez from Extreme Vocal Institute. You all keep screaming responsibly.